Spring migration, it's this incredible, almost magical event that can totally transform our backyards. But man, it happens so fast. If you've ever had that feeling, that sinking feeling that you just missed the best part, you are definitely not alone. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how to shift from just being a casual observer to a really strategic birder. We're going to make sure you catch the main event this year. Let's get into it.
So does this sound familiar? You start to see a few new birds pop up and you think, oh, cool, it's starting. But then by the time you really get into gear, it feels like the peak moment just blew right past you. It's a super common feeling, that sense that you missed out on the most spectacular part of the whole show.
And this quote right here, this really explains why. The stakes are just incredibly high. Think about it. The difference between seeing something you'll remember for the rest of your life and missing it completely can literally come down to a single 24-hour period. It is all about the timing. So how in the world do you get that timing right? Well, I'll tell you what, it's not luck. It is all about strategy. And that's the big fundamental shift we all need to make, moving from just reacting to whatever birds happen to show up to actively anticipating their arrival with a real plan. And that's the playbook we're going to build together today. To really get why this is so important, let's just start with a number, 50%. Okay, what does this mean? It's kind of startling, but this number is the key to understanding just how urgent this whole season really is. That's right, a full half, 50% of the entire spring migration is crammed into just 2 to 3 weeks. That's according to Birdcast, which is this amazing project that actually uses weather radar to watch birds migrate. So you've got this intense, concentrated pulse of life. If you miss that super narrow window, you've basically missed the main event. All right, so let's talk about the migration you might be missing. And way more importantly, how having a strategic plan is going to completely change your entire season this year. So here's our game plan, our roadmap for the whole season. See, it all starts way back in February with prep work. Then March brings those first early arrivals. Things start to build up in April, and then bam, it all comes together in the peak season of May. We're going to walk through this whole thing month by month. First up, your February playbook. And listen, success in May is 100% decided by the work you put in right now, long before those colorful little migrants even think about starting their journey north. So for February, we're going to focus on 2 big critical areas. First, we got to get the habitat in your yard just right. And second, you have to make sure your personal gear is ready to go because believe me, gear failure during that tiny peak window it's just not an option. Okay, let's talk habitat. Migrating birds are running on empty. They are desperate for protein-rich insects like caterpillars to refuel, and the science on this is totally clear. Native plants are what support those bugs. So think of your yard as a crucial pit stop. Your goal should be to get to at least 70% native plant coverage to create a really effective refueling station. So, what do you actually need to do? Here's the checklist. First, wrap up any major landscaping projects by the end of February. Second, if you're adding plants, go for what they call keystone species. Things like oaks and cherries, they support the most insect life by far. And third, get your water feature set up. A simple, shallow bird bath, especially with a little dripper to create movement, is an absolute magnet for tired birds. And hey, on the gear front, do not wait. Clean your binoculars, test your camera. Make sure your memory cards are empty now, because that moment a rare warbler lands in the perfect light, that is the absolute worst time to find out your camera battery is dead. All right, prep is done. We're rolling into March. This is when that first wave hits. These are the pioneers, and we also get that incredible spectacle of waterfowl migration. So here's your March checklist. Start keeping an eye on local reports for those very first arrivals, birds like the eastern phoebe. Give all your feeders a really deep clean. A 10% bleach solution works great to keep diseases from spreading. Stock up on high-energy seeds. And get those nest boxes cleaned out and ready by the 25th for any early nesters. Now here's a key event to circle on your calendar for March, the waterfowl peak. This usually happens in the second half of the month, and it's when you see these just massive flocks of ducks, geese, and swans pushing north. It is the perfect time to get out to your local lakes and marshes and just witness this incredible movement. Okay, deep breath. We are now heading into the main event, April and May. This is it. This is where all that prep work really pays off. This is the heart and soul of migration season. Now, it's really helpful to understand the flow of how these birds arrive. April. Think of April as the buildup. It's dominated by short-distance migrants, like sparrows and blackbirds. They're kind of the opening act. And they're building the hype for the main event in May, which is when the long-distance superstars arrive. Those vibrant warblers, tanagers, and orioles that, let's be honest, we're all waiting for. And this brings us to what is basically the holy grail for a spring birder, the fallout. Now, this isn't just seeing a lot of birds, it's an almost unbelievable concentration of them. It happens when birds that are flying north suddenly smack into bad weather, like a cold front with north winds and rain. It forces them to just drop out of the sky and land, creating one of the most spectacular birding opportunities you could ever imagine. So, your peak season strategy, it all comes down to one thing: the weather. This is when you become a total weather nerd. Your most important new habit is checking the birdcast migration forecast every single night, looking for those cold fronts that could trigger a fallout. And during that prime window, let's say roughly April 20th to May 12th, that's your signal. You've got to be out there at dawn. No excuses. Okay, so now that we have the playbook, let's really lock it in by looking at the 3 most common mistakes, the traps that can completely derail a birder's season. Honestly, avoiding these is just as important as doing all the right things. The number 1 classic error is just starting too late. By the time most people start noticing all the colorful birds showing up, the absolute peak of diversity has already passed them by. That prep work in February and really being on top of things in April, that is what sets you up for an amazing May. The second big mistake is ignoring the weather. Migration isn't random at all. It's like a river that ebbs and flows with the weather fronts. Going birding on a beautiful sunny day after a warm front can be surprisingly quiet. The magic, the real action, happens on those kind of crummy, drizzly, windy mornings right after a cold front. If you ignore the forecast, you're going to miss the biggest waves of birds. Simple as that. And finally, mistake number 3, keeping your winter hours. You just can't do it. Most of our songbirds migrate at night. That means the single most active time of day is right at dawn, when they land and are frantically trying to refuel after flying for hours. If you wait until mid-morning to head out, you've already missed the best action of the day. So, with this strategic playbook in hand, the question isn't if you'll see the migration anymore. The real question is, what will you be prepared to witness? That simple shift from just reacting to what happens to proactively planning for it, that's what unlocks a completely new, amazing level of birding. The migration is coming. The only question left is, what will you be ready to discover?